I think this is very interesting to see how many people are using drones and how many people using UAS. And as I speak now, I find out that for me it's much better to pronounce drone and not UAS and UAV and so forth. So I think this is why people are using mostly drone at the moment, but definitely you can find it in other names as well. I think the name drone is actually much more simple to be used, and you don't have to look for abbreviation. But for instance, if we are speaking about the big UAS, the one that are actually used by military and the payload is very heavy drones, I think it is more specifically for very small UAS that can carry something like 5 kg, maybe 10 kg, but the payload is relatively light than the big UAS. Yes, I think it's a very interesting question. I also highlight in the first chapter that the UAS, the UAV, actually changed the world just as the cellular phone changed the communication. So the UAV changed the remote sensing arena in a very significant way. Everybody can have today a UAV or a drone, a little drone that can carry a very small camera and get information about the surface in a very simple and cheap way. This never happened before. So first of all, it's a big advantage in this direction. Nowadays, the second step is, of course, what are the sensors that can be on board those vehicles, because we are entering into the fourth era of industrial revolution era by the electro-optic industry. So in this sense, I see that in the near future, miniaturization of the sensor will be part of the airborne, unmanned airborne vehicle. So uh, we'll have very small sensor, very small size sensor, but with high capacity and high capability, meaning that we do have today spatial resolution, but the spectral resolution will be the next challenge that we need to actually reach, and this will be, of course, with the fifth revolution, the industrial revolution, when we will have this optical, electro-optical engineering evolving and progress to that direction. The other thing I think is the power of the UAV. At the moment, the power of the UAV is critical. We don't have much time to cover areas for hours. Only I think the military vehicles can do that, but the drones that we are doing the research, they still have limitation in time domain, and I think the batteries and energy consuming engines will be the next challenge issue. And maybe the other way to think about the UAV is the data. Data is actually gathering and is becoming to be a very big data archive, database, and we need to think how to compile all this information together, because we can fly the drone in very easily way and it's not costing us any money, but we are gathering a lot of information, and if this information is not processed, so we lose lots of the advantage of the UAV. So data mining, data storage, data analysis, this will be the next step in UAV, and this has to be actually solved in the next 5 years, I think, on so, because at the moment we still struggling these threats. First of all, we need to find a common language between all the users, that we can share data and we can compile data together and we can harmonize all information together. So we need to find the agreed format for acquiring the data. Then we need to find a way how to store the data in a standard way that everybody can get in and get out. And then we need to manage the big data that we are actually harvesting with the UAV. And the third part is how to data mine the information from this very big database. So altogether is actually dealing with data. So data analysis, data storage, data harmonization, data format, storage format. These things will be something that still needed to be actually studied and solved. It's not solved yet. Yeah, it's a good question. I was thinking about that many times, and since you can actually download the information in a very quick way, so it's not. I think like onboard processing is not really relevant here. If you fly over the field and get the information in 20 minutes, you can process it on real time, near real time. If you download the information to the cloud and you have the all facilities somewhere in the R&D center that can do the analysis. So 20 minutes or maybe half an hour is not a big deal. This is a very important thing when you have a UAV that flies, or maybe even airborne or satellite that flies over time and is not landing, and you need to have the information right away. So onboard processing, I think it's not yet the advantage of UAVs, but rather near real-time analysis is something that the UAVs can bring to the customer or to the user by using this R&D processing center that will do it automatically or semi-automatically, but programming and data mining and big data analysis, this is part of the new era of UAVs. Um, First of all, we were actually living in a jungle till this legislation, and we need legislation. We need some rules, and we need to have some guideline how to behave, how to perform, how to manage the UAVs. Otherwise, we will be back in a jungle, and we will actually lose all the advantage of the UAVs. So I think first of all, legislation is a good direction. It's a good process. The question always is what exactly you have in this legislation. What are the limitations? What are the threats that you can actually get from this legislation? Or what is the pros and cons from this legislation? And I'm sure that for one user it will be very harmful, and for the others will be very helpful. So I would very much think that the interaction with the EC about the legislation issue should be done by the users themselves. And for that, I suggest that the users will actually be united and find a union, or establish a union that can actually get the direct in touch with the EC or other bodies that are using legislation or trying to legislate their activity in their area. And the interaction between users, real users, and between the stakeholders and maybe politician, this is something that also needs to be taken. And I think at the moment it's not yet taken, but the legislation is a very good step toward making this technology, let's say, much more arranged, stable, and organized. Definitely. This will definitely will push us to work together. And exactly as I said before, when we were speaking about the data, if we have the same format and we have the same tools and we speak the same language in terms of data analysis, we will speak the same language in UAV operation, and this is very important. So I think standard and protocol by legislation or by other means is very important to any community, and of course for the community that evolving at the moment. At the moment, I think that most of the software are actually customized, but in the future, I'm sure that this will be open source because it's first of all, many users are now entering into this field, and you can imagine that if you have more and more people are that are interested in one issue on one discipline, somebody will come up and will issue open source software. And I'm sure that after this harmonized action, that also the EC will come up with a call that will ask to some colleagues to gather together and develop an open source for the community. So this will be a mandate of the EC or other very important entities in North America, in Asia, that they will definitely want the users to be uh, free to select and free to work without investing lots of money. So definitely now it's not the situation, but I am quite sure that in the future we will have more and more open source software to work with. And I have very very bad, let's say, um, experience with the companies that selling software. I will not mention the names here, but if you are the only one, if you have a monopoly, if you are the only two in the market, then you are totally blocked by the companies, and you cannot do much, or you cannot have any even support when you need the support. This is something that is definitely needed, and competition is really needed. And also I think that in the near future, when you will have more spectral information, for instance, if we will have high spectral sensor, hyperspectral sensor in on drone platform, then the software will need to be modified. It's not the same software, it will have to be modified. And for that, I'm not talking about the processing. The processing is very easy, I'm speaking about the mosaicing. I'm speaking about the geometric correction and patching up all the information taking acquired by the sensor. So every company, every software manufacturer, they have their own format, but all the remote sensing packages today will be able to read this format, and then we will be a little bit free from those big suppliers, software suppliers today of UAV. So this, I think, in summary, I think this will be in the future in a very much more convenient way and freely way, and we will not be anymore rely on one or two uh, software providers and so forth. Exactly, and I think the EC sees that this technology is accelerated and getting very much progress with everybody. And of course, you mentioned the developing countries. As I said, this technology is now available almost to everybody, and it make the remote sensing to be available as the iPhone or the cell phone actually made for communication. So you cannot imagine somebody in developing country they don't have a cell phone. So they will have a UAV, but how they will process the data? And this is why I think EC and similar bodies will push to have free available open source software. First of all, I think every book on UAS will actually be valuable for anybody that is now trying to work with UAV or working with UAV because of two reasons. One is because it provides lots of information about the technology, about the technical issues, and about how to validate data, how to calibrate the data. This is very important for beginners. And then it provides you also case studies, very nice case studies that can actually demonstrate what is the benefit of using this UAV. So it's not only taking pictures from above. It's also getting information from above, and you just need to open your mind and use this technology to have the information you need for your own area. So I think for that case, the book is relevant to the beginners and also to the people who are still working with this technology, so scientists, and perhaps also companies that are trying to provide information to customers. So it could be, city planners, it could be road monitoring, and there are plenty of applications that can use the UAV. And for that purpose, I think the book will give to those users or to those people, they will give them the fundamental uh, aspect how to use this technology from one point. And those beginners who are finding difficulties and perhaps they raise their hands in one of the operational time and things like that, they will understand that with some effort they can get very nice results as the people here already obtain and present. And as you see, the book has 13 chapters, and these 13 chapters are really nicely distributed between the technical issues, between the application issues, and within application issues, we see water, we see vegetation, and we see soil. So it's all relevant to agriculture and monitoring the environment. And also, I would very much open my mind and say, even for food security and for things that are actually now emerging, very highlighting with the climatic change issue that we all aware of. So altogether, I think this book will be a precursor to other books and to other applications to be developed, and as I said, as to other books to be published in the future, and of course before other very nice papers that will be based on the new users and also the senior users that are using today UAV.